Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to the Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. And if you'd like to support my content, hitting the like button is the best thing you can do. It's free, and it's the only thing that YouTube cares about. We've got 10 decks to talk about today, so let's get started. This is not one of them. This is my meme deck. I was just baiting you guys. I want to see if anybody's actually going to run this as a tough deck. I actually been playing this. It's a lot of fun in a silly way. Like if you don't care about your cubes or your bubs or anything like that, this is actually a hilariously fun deck to play, but that is another conversation. Let's talk about the best decks in Marvel Snap right now. Coming in at number 10, we do have the reemergence of a Black Bolt. Now this deck has about 350 games on it at a 55% win rate and a pretty solid cube rate at 0.32. Any cube rate above 3.0 is generally considered strong, and this is performing pretty well. It's interesting to see the Silk in there with Nocturne, which gives you the opportunity to proc that newly buffed 4/6 Miles Morales, and then of course you have the Stature Black Bolt combination. Overall, the deck is performing pretty damn good. It has the Shang-Chi and the Enchantress to kind of deal with the Erisham style play, whether they're throwing down blobs, whether they're throwing down Darkhawks. Regardless, you do have some tech-based answers. Another card that works really well in here is going to be something like a Red Guardian, because it has the ability to turn off a Darkhawk if you so choose to go that route. But regardless, I do like this deck a lot. Really interesting approach to Black Bolt with some modern new frills like White Widow, who continues to be one of the top 2 drops in Marvel Snap. We'll have to see if Kate Bishop is able to have a say about that. We go to number 9 here, and it's Athena Sasquatch. Now, this is a deck that's been hovering around the meta for some time, at a 55% win rate and a 0.32 cube rate. The deck is doing pretty well. The addition of Quenpool is actually kind of raising the cube rate ever so slightly in this deck, and honestly, it's solid. It's just performing exceptionally well. Naturally, do have the Mysterio into Sasquatch-based play. Mysterio also procs the Mockingbird. There's a lot to like about this deck. It's not the top performing Athena kitty shell. There's going to be better ones, I think, overall. But if you're someone who does like the Sasquatch-based play, then this is currently one of the top choices. But again, I think there's better Athena-based packages that we're going to be talking about shortly. So, hey, let's get to those. Before that, though, we do have Cassandra Hawk. Now, this here has, a 56% win rate, but a relatively low cube rate at 0.20. Cassandra Nova isn't in the hands of too many players yet, but it is getting kind of increased in popularity as more people unlock it during, the Deadpool's Diner. This is currently the kind of take on the meta, because what we have is we have Erisham, which is completely dominant right now from a play rate perspective, and so that's why you have the Darkhawk-based deck. This deck also features Korg and Rock Slide, so if you don't match it into Erisham, Darkhawk is not just a tech card, but an actual playable piece as well. In Cassandra Nova, despite the fact that, is obviously best against Erisham, whether it's played on turn 3 or on turn 6, it's also worth noting that with Rock Slide and Korg, those are additional targets within the deck that Cassandra Nova can steal power from. It's also worth noting that we have Copycat in this deck as well. Now, as a special mention, I'm going to say I actually like my own version of this deck better, and I'm going to just highlight it here. I was calling it Nova Hawk. Similar, right? Similar. But with Cassandra Nova and Copycat, I preferred the Ravonna Renslayer package of Iron Man, Mystique, Darkhawk, and I felt like this was a little stronger in my personal play experience. Statistically, I've not shown this to too many people yet, so it's going to be something kind of relatively new, and if you want to give a shot to that kind of style deck, then this is the one that I would play. This is what I've been playing in high-stakes bub matches. This is what I've been playing on ladder. This has been very successful against all matchups, and of course against Erisham as well. And again, this is my, I don't want to say it's my personal brew, where everyone's working around that Athena-based package, but that's my personal take on it. And then coming in at number 7, we have Bounce. Now, this deck here is relatively new. It has a 180 games played, which is lower than the threshold we usually go for. We usually take a minimum of 250, but if I see an outlier in performance at like 200 or 180, I want to show it to you guys because I think it's good. This is interesting, a 57% win rate and a 0.46 cube rate, which is very strong. This is a new Hitmonkey based deck, and what's interesting is that Hitmonkey did get a power buff based on the last OTA there, and so here's a deck that takes advantage of that. It's notable that this deck does not utilize Athena, but does have the Kitty Pride based package. This is also a Bast deck, which we've not seen much of. US Agent does a really good job of keeping the power levels of later plays down. US Agent's best played later in the match here when you're able to better predict where their 6 drops might be going. But honestly, US Agent does help this deck significantly, and I was very impressed with it when I was in testing with it as well. overall, a very strong deck, and Beast does give you that versatility of moving things around. It was interesting to me that Werewolf by Night doesn't make this deck. And perhaps in the future, Werewolf by Night will see play in a deck like this. But as of right now, apparently, this is the way to play Bounce. 57% win rate, but a relatively low play rate. So hopefully that changes with the release of this video. Then we have Disrupt Airsham. We have a few Airsham decks to talk about. This is the one that's really pissing people off. This has the largest meta share, but it's actually not the top performing deck right now. In terms of games played, this one's kind of starting to take off. It has a 58% win rate, which is phenomenal, and a 4-1 cube rate, which is still excellent. But it has Leech, it has Doc Ock, it has all the reasons why you hate playing against Airsham. And this is kind of the problem. You have the turn 4 Leech, you have the turn 4 Doc Ock, and that's kind of starting to piss people off, wear them down. And of course, in this particular deck, you do have the Rogue as well, which is used in order to kind of counterplay the mirror matches where people are playing Darkhawks as tech pieces. This deck does not feature Darkhawk. And so as a result, as people start to kind of ease off of Airsham, as Cassandra Nova becomes more prevalent, as people unlock her, this type of Airsham approach becomes better because it no longer needs Darkhawk and can just, you know, respond to Darkhawk with the Rogue or the Shang-Chi as necessary. So anyways, Disrupt Airsham running a 58% win rate should surprise no one, and it's not the last time we're speaking about Airsham in this video, because we're talking about it right now, and this is Mirror Airsham. This is the deck that was designed to combat the mirror matches of Airsham, which are really prevalent at all MMRs, but very specifically in the lower range of Bubs and Deadpool's Diner. You're basically seeing a ton of Airsham. Like, it's basically all Airsham until the Cassandra Nova is unlocked, and then no one's playing Airsham afterwards. It's running a 59% win rate and a slightly lower cube rate than the previous, but this deck again does feature the Rogue, but it also features the Darkhawk itself, which is advantageous for the particular player because now you have a Darkhawk to take advantage of their Airsham while also roguing their Darkhawk. So this deck was designed to kind of deal with the mirror match more effectively while still running the high kind of performance pieces like Blob. Regardless, 59% win rate, similar in style to the other, with some minor nuanced difference. And that's not even the last time we're talking about Airsham. But until then, we have Silky Thena. Now, this has been a performing deck over the last couple of weeks. 59% win rate and a 0.45 cube rate. It's really, really good. And it's notable here that you have a lot of this like movement package, which is great for a lot of the locations you can't quite sneak into. The recently buffed Miles Morales. Gwenpool makes this deck as well, which is great. You play Gwenpool, you hit something like a Vision. That's a ton of extra power floating around and almost impossible to Shang-Chi. And of course, you do have the Thena Kitty Pryde package with Angela, which continues to be absolutely fantastic. Silk is a 2/5. It's been getting cut from a lot of decks, but seeing Silk with Kraven again is pretty cool. I wonder if Hydra Bob ever makes a deck like this. Maybe not. Had Hydra Bob moved in with the Bub snapping like we kind of expected to, this deck would have absolutely crushed because you'd have had Hydra Bob to it with Kraven. It would have been absolutely crazy. But anyways, Silky Athena performing exceptionally well at a 59% win rate and a 0.45 cube rate. Now we're in the top 3, and we actually have Gwen Cat. Now this is interesting, and Gwen Cat is it's a deck that's kind of similar to the last one. I mean, I say it's similar to the last one. It basically has Gwenpool, Kitty Pryde, Thena. But what makes this deck kind of cool is its usage of Iron Man and Mystique. Because if you think about it, if with the Ravonna package, if you hit Gwenpool onto Iron Man, onto Mystique, they double that power. It's an effective 4 power increase, let alone if it hits one of those multiple times, right? So Ravonna and allows you to sneak out the Iron Man Mystique on turn 6. Turn 4, you might hit Iron Man and Mystique with the +2s from Gwenpool. And ultimately on turn 5, you're able to play Darkhawk, and then you can maybe mirror that with Mystique and then play Iron Man in another location that's been love tapped by Gwenpool. A very interesting deck. In fact, I think this is a really inventive way of using Gwenpool because no one's going to use that power more effectively than Iron Man and Mystique. Yes, of course, there's Broods and whatnot, but Iron Man Mystique is a pretty interesting way to apply additional strength to that Gwenpool effect. It's also a fantastic deck using Copycat, and its stats reflect that at a 0.47 cube rate. At number 2, it's been a surprise. It's been a surprise. Surfer, I mean, it's continued to kind of hover around high percentage win rates and cube rates with relatively low play rates. This is one of those hidden gems, honestly. A 59% win rate and a 0.54 cube rate. That's exceptional, honestly. It's kind of crazy the amount of power it's putting out, and what's notable here is it's not running Sarah. And me personally, I've always preferred Sarah-based Surfer decks, but I keep playing this one because I'm like, what's like, the stats aren't lying. What's up? And you know what? It actually plays pretty damn well. And it's notable that with Makari, it reduces your hand size so that you feel like you're less constrained to the Sarah-based play. When Makari leaves your hand, you basically have fewer options and you're playing out more of your hand on later turns. So I really do like the way this plays. However, I still like Sarah-based versions better. Even if it's coping, I'm just saying, we all have our preferences. But this here, the statistics aren't lying. It's absolutely crushing. And it's just good, and I like the addition of Red Guardian. What makes me nervous about this deck, however, is it does not have good answers to the verticality. Like, it does not have a Shongers, it does not have a Shadow King for blobs or anything like that, and that can be somewhat problematic. I wonder if the Rogue tech could be interesting in this deck at some point, but then again, this is a Silver Surfer playing Overthinking. This is the stats, this is the deck, give it a shot, and the nice thing about it is if you don't have Makari, then throw a Rogue in there. Throw whatever you want as tech. So anyways, Silver Surfer doing wonderfully into the current meta to, I would say, everyone's surprise. And that takes us to our number one deck, but before we get there, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, guys. Over half of the people that watch this video are not subscribed. I say it every week. It blows me away. But I love you guys and I appreciate you. And at the end of the day, if you consider hitting the subscribe button, it just allows me to keep up to date with you guys so that I can continue providing you guys with the content that I'm hoping is helpful in your journey in Marvel Snap. Takes us to number one deck. It's Hand Generation Archer. It's what it is. I mean, you knew it was going to be Archer, right? Am I saying Archer? I mean Erisham. Archer is way better than Erisham. I love Archer. I don't love Erisham. I loved Erisham. There was a point where I'm like, oh, Erisham, but it's like slightly too good. It's slightly too good. I think we need to add like more cards to the random gen so that like we're not drawing to turn 4 Doc Ock every single time. At least this one doesn't have Leech. That's exciting. But it's running a 60% win rate and a 0.49 cube rate. It's too damn high. It's too damn high, and something probably has to be done eventually. And I imagine it's going to be adding additional random cards to the deck to reduce the consistency of the pieces being added by the player themselves. This is the top deck in Marvel Snap right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate you guys, every single one of you. Make my dream come true with every single video release. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on that next Marvel Snap video.